Lift off. Hi guys. Wait, so we're live.
Yeah.
Live. Hi guys. Welcome. We're going to do the intro and the usual shindig in a minute, but this is Danielle Berrin. I'm probably speaking to no one right now. Right?
Yeah. Share it on your Facebook too.
Okay.
Dude, I don't have Facebook.
So how do I do it? Add to timeline?
No.
Share?
Yeah, share.
If you get me my phone, I'll share it.
Share to page?
Yeah,
Share to my story?
No,
Both.
To your.
Just share now. Do I have to write something?
Share now. You can write something.
Okay.
These guys made me do it.
Ethan, spell it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Just share now.
9, 10.
Okay, I did it. Okay. Wow, this is very nerve-wracking. I've never been live on anything.
Anything?
Actually, that's not true. I once videoed Netanyahu live when he spoke to a group of Jewish media people.
Oh, yeah?
And that was a big hit on my Facebook page,
but
I have
it was
to say.
like, it was, you were filming him, like
Exactly.
the back camera.
Exactly.
It wasn't like you went live. Yeah.
Guys, phone on silent.
Phone on silent.
Yeah, but you want me to share it?
Can I close Facebook
my-
or do I have to
You
leave
can
it
close
open?
it. You can close it.
Okay, bye-bye.
You don't want me to share it to my huge Facebook audience?
You feel like that.
You know what me sharing it means. It means my mom and my dad are going to watch.
This is the most important thing for me, though.
My grandma's going to be very upset that I didn't let her know in advance.
How do I do this?
You're a technophobe.
Do you
I'm
save
not a
it? Do you save
technophobe,
the
I'm a
things? Or do
technadiot.
you...
Which things?
Well, I guess you're recording it, so I can still send it to my grandmother. She'll be thrilled.
Yeah, it'll be on the page.
In the meantime, we've lost all listeners while sharing the thing we're trying to...
True. We're still getting listeners. Okay, guys, we're gonna start in a second.
I don't know how to share this. This is my podcast, and I don't even know how to
Are
do
you
this.
Facebook challenged, Eitan?
I am.
Okay,
Okay.
Ethan, you ready?
It's one of my many challenges.
Oh no, city poison mushroom.
Okay, I got the post. It's here. Now I press share. And then I say, yes, I can do technology. Post. Okay. Cool. Guys, we're really excited about this one. Elections are coming up, so this is gonna be crazy.
I
and
thought you were
heated.
excited because I was back.
Also,
For the
that's
second time.
I don't even. That's like I don't. That goes unspoken, unsaid. You have me all nervous now.
Vegam.
Vigam.
Vegam, the one Hebrew word.
That's it.
No,
Vigam.
I mean,
That's the most random Hebrew word. And also,
Exactly. You said and also. So I said
okay.
vegam. That's how I'm starting my Hebrew education.
Ah.
It's like I'll pick one word out of someone's sentence and I'll be like
I'm gonna translate that.
be'erech.
I see. So you're like a Google Translate intern.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Okay,
Are we doing
no,
this?
no music. Just go.
Aw.
Just go.
Wow, this is- I feel like we should do the Game of Thrones theme because this is basically Game of Thrones Israel right
It
now.
is.
When is the?
In a
It's
week.
like happening
1 week
4
from
days,
tonight.
4 or 5 days after the election.
I was almost going to wear my Queen Cersei crown, but I didn't want to scare you.
Guys,
Oh,
order,
shit.
please.
Okay, order.
Eitan, do the
Let's
intro.
it.
Order the court.
The day after tomorrow, Tuesday the 9th of April, all of Israel will have the day off. Elections are upon us. About 4 million of us will be hitting the ballot boxes to determine who will lead this tiny Middle Eastern country in the upcoming years. No one knows how long that's going to be. Benjamin Netanyahu, the master campaigner, second only to Ben Gurion in duration as prime minister, or Benny Gantz, an ex-IDF chief of staff who has no experience in politics and who's running alongside Yair Lapid and 2 other ex-IDF chiefs. The country is in turmoil. It's heated, it's dirty, it's a close race, and the polls just keep on changing. But one thing is for sure. For the first time in 10 years, Bibi's reign is under a real and present threat. Today we're super excited to host one of our favorite past guests.
Yay.
Danielle Berrin is one of the shining stars of Jewish journalism in America. She was a senior columnist for the Jewish Journal. She also wrote for the New York Times, the Atlantic, Yedioth Ahronoth, the Guardian and British Esquire. She's now visiting Israel, and we're thrilled to have her on the podcast again to talk a bit about politics and some other stuff.
Thank you for making my resume sound fancy.
Your resume did it on its own.
Just a disclosure, I work for one of the candidates. We won't say for whom, but just take it into account, guys.
Okay.
Oh, it's like I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you kind of thing.
We won't say anything too nasty.
Okay, but I think it's fair we start off with like a disclaimer to set the stage, kind of, right?
Set.
You're not an Israeli citizen.
I'm not.
But I don't even know if you have, but if you were, can you say who you would vote for? That's my first question.
I probably would give a very typical Israeli answer at the moment, which is like, I think a vote for change is necessary right now. So I think anyone who represents newness, new ideas, new direction, a departure from the status quo, I think would be a healthy move for the country. I think it's always healthy to change things up. And the fact is, Israel has had a prime minister for a really, really long time, the same one. And I think even if you were to use the analogy of a business organization or even a family-run organization, it's really healthy, and it keeps institutions dynamic to infuse them with new flavors, new ideas, and I think that that's something sorely needed right now.
But if a business fails, can I delve in?
Yeah.
Okay. If a business fails, you go bankrupt, everybody go on his or her way. But here we have one chance to make it right? The leader cannot fail. If he fails, everybody dies, basically.
See,
so grim.
I actually think that's like a tremendous apocalyptic exaggeration. I actually think the sign of really effective and outstanding, excellent leadership is a leader who can walk away from what they lead, and it is self-sustaining. And I think Israel is at a point in its development now more than at any time in its short history, modern Israel, where the country's doing really well. There were so many fears about, and honestly, I give Netanyahu a lot of credit. There are a lot of things to credit him for. Security, the economy is booming. I look outside my window in Florentine and I see 100 cranes, looming over the city. So the development is just skyrocketing. And I think
you also traveled outside of Tel Aviv.
Yes, he's expanded the diplomatic horizons of the country. He's done a lot of good. And I think Israel is not this it's no longer the scrappy startup. Yes, there are real and present threats on the border, but I don't think at the moment there are any Israel is not well equipped to handle. And I don't think that the prime minister, I thought there were many people in America and the liberal side that thought Trump was equaling, was going to be apocalyptic doom for the United States of America. And you know what? A few years in, I find that some days are concerning, but overall,
his haircut's
the institutions of democracy are holding up.
If I were you, I wouldn't go back to America after saying that.
But it can be argued that the United States is on a much, more stable foundation, or at least they're in a much more stable region than Israel.
No question about that. Although we have like at least 3,000 scary migrants trying to come over the border from the south, so that's a real existential threat to Americans.
What I'm saying is that when Israel has
tacos,
it hasn't taken as much as a war to make this area, this country we live in, destabilized and to make our lives very scary.
I think that's one of Netanyahu's greatest achievements, is that he has convinced not just so many Israeli citizens, but many Jews in the diaspora as well, that without him, the country is truly imperiled, that there is no one else who could protect it as well as he can, that there is no other leader who is as strong as he is. And I think this is one of his great successes, because people really believe that and they are afraid.
But what I'm saying is, it's more, I'm not necessarily him. I'm trying to draw a dichotomy and say that on one hand you have strong leadership that doesn't make concessions and that is strong on security, and on the other hand you have a side that's trying to appease and to make deals. And I'm just trying to draw. I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong, but I'm saying, actually I am. But I'm wondering if it doesn't take as much as, it's not so apocalyptic. I'm not saying that tomorrow if someone as weak, or if someone weaker than Benjamin Netanyahu, or someone who doesn't share his outlook, the Israel's going to fall into some kind of like the next world war, and it's going to be apocalypse. But you might have people blowing themselves up on buses, and we're not that far from that.
But do you really feel that the infrastructure that's in place would not hold up?
It didn't.
If Netanyahu was not in power?
It didn't hold up from 95 to 2007, 8, 9.
But all of these, but there have been incredible measures taken in that time. I mean, first of all, you have I think the completion of the wall was an absolute game changer. The there are all these things, checkpoints, that the fact that the restrictions on the freedom of movement of the Palestinians from the West Bank, and certainly Gaza as well, that there's, it's really hard to infiltrate. I mean, that's why, the
I'm
Gazans...
not sure it's that hard. We had a knife intifada 2 years ago. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember it.
It was much less devastating than
it was, but
it's
it
like
could have been even.
Yeah.
I mean, he did manage to balance things somehow.
But I also think like the knife thing to me was, it felt like a hiccup of bad actors rather than a like systemic threat to peace and security in the state. It felt like small. It's like rock throwing at tanks.
I mean, yeah, but it could. I mean,
nobody wants to live that way, and I'm not saying it's not living. But I mean, if you compare, the knife incidents to the number of gun deaths we have in the United States, it's like there's no comparison, and yet people don't walk around like feeling, if so and so isn't the leader of the country, then I mean, first of all. Anyway, that's a whole different thing, but I'm just saying I don't want to get too hysterical about like I actually think things have been going pretty well. That's why he's popular.
So, but you said it yourself. Things are going well. You can see that. You can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Many, maybe Americans
things are
who are
going
not
well.
here can't really fathom the things that you see when you walk around the streets.
Yeah.
So why switch a winning horse, as they say? Do they say it in English too, or just in Hebrew?
I mean, somebody has probably said it once.
Okay, in Hebrew it's a saying. Anyway, you get the point.
I think so, yeah.
Because I think there are other areas that require immediate and meticulous attention. I think that it's problematic and troubling that like a peace plan wasn't even on the list of like policy issues that were debated this time. That concerns me. So, and of course there are all kinds of internal issues. I think, Bibi has been incredibly divisive as a leader as well. I mean, I think you've never seen a time of as much strain between Israeli Jews and American Jews. You've never seen as much strain between Jewish Israelis and non-Jewish Israelis. You've never seen as much strain between Orthodox and non-Orthodox. There's a lot of divisiveness within, because he and other leaders like him around the world, I include my own, it's weird to call him my president. It doesn't feel that way, but he is technically the president of the United States, and I am a citizen there, so therefore he is my president.
That was the longest.
It's difficult to say. I can't help it. It's like the words. It's hard for them to come out. are of a party, and this is part and parcel of like Netanyahu has aligned himself with other sort of autocratic, authoritarian, strong men around the world, and tribalism is sort of the prevailing political ideology of that kind of a leader, because when you keep people divided and fearful and angry at the other one and blaming and this and that, you have an opportunity to come in and save the day. And I think when things are very kind of oversimple and black and white, it's easy to make sense of very complex issues and distill them down to a simple formula. Of course, most things are not that way. In reality, policy is very complex, good policy. So, yeah.
So who would you vote for?
I was going to ask you the same question, but you can't say.
I can say.
Yeah, I feel like you like that. You're so comfortable in that position.
Yeah, it's better.
We talked about this a little bit before, but I think I'm debating between actually Bibi and Feiglin, which I think
yesterday you said Bennett and Feiglin.
No, well, never mind.
Bennett, wow. Okay, yeah. So please explain that to me, because I think this is, and you are, you were an American Jew once. Yeah. Right? No longer?
I was. No, I'm still an American, and I'm still a Jew.
So now you're an American, and you're all in one. You're like the one-stop shop.
Jewish Israeli. But
do you argue with yourself? What was that? What's that famous line about with our arguments with others, we make rhetoric. With our arguments with ourselves, we make poetry. It's someone very famous and important and classic in literature, and I can't even think of who it was, but someone
I feel like I don't make poetry when I argue with myself. It's more just like doodles. That's what I make. But I think that people like to what's it called? Dogmatize the whole discussion. I don't think these people are as bad as everybody makes them out to be. I don't think Feiglin is this.
Explain who's Feiglin.
Feiglin is the head of a party called Identity Zehut, which I'm sure you've heard about, but for our listeners, it's come to represent a libertarian mindset that's taken on sort of the legal cannabis legalization ticket,
also religious.
But also religious,
ultra-nationalist, West Bank annexation, stripping Palestinians of
also Gaza
voting rights.
By the way.
Yeah,
not stripping.
No voting rights.
But they don't have voting rights.
Okay, but he doesn't want them. He wants to annex and then not have voting.
That's a matter
no, it is stripping.
The way you frame.
It is stripping because right now they do have voting rights in their.
No.
In theory.
In theory.
In theory.
In practice, they don't. They didn't have elections for like a decade or something.
But also, like from a political science perspective, I'm not responsible for their voting rights in their country. I can't strip them of their voting rights in their country.
But if you annex their territory and bring it into your country and don't give them voting rights, that's a problem.
No, you prevent them.
No, but what I'm saying
is apartheid.
My responsibility as a nation is for the protection of my own citizens. If another nation is attacking me, I can strip their citizens of whatever rights. I'm not responsible for that. There's certain human rights that I'm responsible for, and he doesn't want to strip them of human rights. But he's not voting is a civil right, and he doesn't want to give them voting rights. But he does. Hold on. And I think this is a matter of framing. He does want to give them a road to citizenship, and then if they are citizens, then they can vote.
Right, if they do a loyalty pledge or something.
Yeah.
This is
Which is what you have to do.
It's very problematic. I don't see how that works.
Don't you pledge loyalty in America to them?
It's easy for me to pledge loyalty because I was born there and it's part of my identity. English is the language. American English is the language that I speak. But you're talking about bringing in millions of people who not only do they not cathect to the idea of Israel or even like Israel, they identify differently and they have a right to say we are something else. And I mean, I believe I'm a believer in a two-state solution. So you're not going to convince me that annexation and no voting rights is the answer to the situation. I think I think it's a lose-lose. It's just a matter of when.
So there's two answers I have to that. One is I don't totally believe in what I'm saying. No, I'm kidding.
Great.
I'm kidding. One is basically that I don't feel like I have to totally come to terms. I don't actually not believe what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is I don't feel like I have to totally come to terms with Feigelin's perspective and outlook on security, because I don't think he's going to be in that position right now. But I when you do come to terms with it, I don't think it's as drastic as people are putting it out to. I think it's a solution. And I think that there are people, I mean, we're going to be having, hopefully, Mordechai Kedar on the podcast soon. And he talks about the fact that the nationality and the identity of Palestinians is a questionable thing. It is. I mean, they haven't,
I can understand that there are people for whom that argument does them a great service. It serves them, and it serves their interests and their own ideology. So I can understand why there will be people who would make an argument like that.
Like every argument.
But that's not the world that I believe in. It's not the world I live in. I think if there's any kind of sense of human progress, or we do want to believe that the...
Wait, so is...
let her finish this sentence.
No, I just, to me... the idea, the Martin Luther King idea about how, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Like, it's not, it's not up to me to tell someone else. I mean, we have laws to restrict people from doing dangerous things and hurtful things, and I'm fine with that. But someone who wants to live freely with dignity, rights, in a land that they consider their own, where they have generations of family history, if I negate that claim, I'm negating my own claim.
I don't think so, because I don't think that they... First of all, I mean, does anybody...
But I think, we're going to get mired in the whole... thing, and I'm not sure.
So let me take it to a different topic, because again, the security issue is, I think Bibi's going to take the next elections, and I'm pretty happy with the way he's handling. I mean, I'm not totally happy, but I'm pretty happy. But the main reason I'm voting Feiglin, or probably voting Feiglin, is for the libertarian issue, and I think Israel is entrenched in this socialist culture that it inherited from somewhere. I mean, a lot of it probably comes from Europe and from East and from Russia.
Well, yeah, I mean, the builders of the state were so.
And I think it's ruining us.
It's interesting to me that you say that, because everywhere I look, I see capitalism. I see
only if you live here. You feel.
But by the same token, you have things. I mean, I talk to friends from the States who are, an American is married to an Israeli, and they, the idea that they could come to Israel to raise kids is super appealing to them, because they would receive so many additional benefits to life. Healthcare is more affordable, daycare, education, etc. All of these things that in the United States, I have a friend in New York City who's sending her kid to a Jewish preschool, okay, little, 4, and it's $40,000 a year. Preschool.
Well, America is one extreme.
Probably really good though.
Yeah, I'm sure that kid's gonna be a genius.
But look, on paper,
the next Einstein.
like communism and social, on paper it sounds very good, what Israel is suggesting to its citizens. But when you delve in and look at the details, you find out that our health system sucks. Yes, on paper you get free healthcare, but try to book an MRI scan.
Yeah, it takes forever.
If you want it for free, you can come next year. Or if you want a skin doctor, it's next month. Okay, and I pay, and you still pay. So this sucks. And about the education system, it's the worst. It costs tons. It's not free. That's the thing. The educational budget in Israel is bigger than the security budget. Did you know it? It's bigger. And so you pay a lot, billions and billions and billions, and the level of education, it's mediocre.
He's got a really good.
Yeah, but I could make the
plan.
same argument about the public school system in America. I could make the same argument about the health system in America. I mean, you want to talk about a disaster? Let's go into the American health system, where if you have the means, you can get the best healthcare in the world, and if you don't, good luck to you.
But that's what.
I mean, even me. I mean, I have to wait often. I mean, I have to wait months sometimes to go to some of my most basic, essential doctors. Primary care tends to be better, but if it's any kind of specialist or female related or whatever, like I could be on I mean, I can't even.
When you go to the hospital, will you lie on a alunka? How do you say that?
Stretcher.
On a stretcher in the kitchen? Because here you will.
I don't know, because I've never been in a hospital
Here
in
you
America.
will. Here you will. You will lie on a stretcher in the kitchen.
But I can tell you that I was in a hospital in Paris, and it was quite nice. White glove service on the food in the morning. They were bringing me like caprese salad, and then sticking
Croissants.
IVs in my arms. Yeah,
sounds
croissant,
awesome.
butter, like IV throw up.
I think we should all get French hospitals.
Anyways, I want to ask you,
Yeah.
what do you see? What do you see as the primary difference? I mean, one thing that occurs to me that I've discussed with some of my Israeli friends during the short 2 weeks that I've been here, is that it seems to me like you have, on the one hand, Netanyahu, who is this incredibly polished politician. Bret Stephens had a great line about Netanyahu. He of course was writing an article on like why he should not be prime minister again, but he said he's politically cunning, strategically canny, and toxically flawed. And I thought, okay, that's close. And he said, anyway, so there's Netanyahu, who's this like incredibly polished candidate, and then there's Gantz, who, what I've heard is like, people just say he's a human being. I think Bret Stephens, even, I was reading his column today, and he said he interviewed him. I think probably he was there for APAC, and he got to sit with him one-on-one, and he sort of did this kind of not so veiled insult about it wasn't that interesting of an interview. It was like kind of basic, but he said what struck him about Gantz is that he's someone who exudes like a quality of character, and his kind of attitude is really the departure from the Netanyahu model. So this idea that you have like this studied politician, very crafty, very cunning, very canny, and then you have like the nice guy, like a guy that you feel like he could be your uncle or your dad.
Although he did kill thousands
I'm not
of Arabs.
saying, but I think he exudes.
Single-handedly.
I'm not suggesting that he's not capable of doing very difficult things, but or violence or whatever it is. But I think that there's a sense about him that like he's very human. He comes across as very human.
Yeah.
Netanyahu, I think, comes across as like a wonderful, political actor.
I think that can I?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it was directed at him, but I'm going to steal it.
Go for it.
But maybe you want to take it after. But I think I've heard. I feel like the media here in Israel paints that picture all the time. It's not like the first time hearing of it. But I think that's exactly the problem with politics today, is that question. It's a popularity contest, and I don't get it. It's like, what do I give a shit about who this guy is? It should be a battle of ideas.
And capabilities.
See, but I argue,
And competency,
I think your character informs your ability to execute on your ideas.
Churchill was a shitty person, right?
I mean, shitty.
And Hitler was a nice guy, by the way. If you met him,
I'm not talking about nice versus not nice. I'm talking about
party, on a dinner party. I'm Daniel. I'm Adolf. You
But
probably get along.
But
Addy,
to me,
actually, Addy.
but that's the personality and character is a different thing. I'm talking about a different thing. I'm talking about qualities of character, like what makes a person who they are, what essential characteristics define, who they are in this world and what they're going to do. And I think character brings to be, I mean, for example, like if you look at Trump's character, there are so many aspects of his character that inform his style, the way that he makes deals, the way he interacts with people that work for him, his treatment of underlings. I mean, it for me, it like resonates on so many levels. The fact that he's willing to, cheat, cut corners, not pay taxes, inflate the value of his asset. These are things like that to me matters. Like, I don't want a leader who's cheating, and I don't want someone leading the country whose own self-interest trumps, pun intended, almost everything else.
So that's where maybe that's where Americans or American Jews differ from Israelis. I think if you polled in the streets, you would see that people don't care if the leader is nice. They care about if he can keep them safe.
Yeah.
But she's saying more than nice. She's saying
there's
actually like what she's pointing at is like a moral turpitude. Like,
and I actually think one of my grievances with Netanyahu is that I think that like there are so few moral considerations that come before political interest for him. I mean, it's something that I just feel I've seen again and again. It's like he does not care who he offends, who he upsets, how he has said vile things. I mean, he has no problem subjugating certain elements in the population, insulting, demeaning, etc. And to me, it's like, for him, it's like, and Jewish self-interest is part of his self-interest. So I understand that in his view, his moral calculus is, I'm protecting the one and only Jewish state, and I have to preserve the arc of Jewish history, right? Like, it's up to me, otherwise we'll disappear probably into atoms.
But that's like normal for leaders, right?
Right, but so anyway, that's just right. So I wanted to ask you about like, what are your impressions of Gantz?
I think, first of all, why people vote for Gantz? I guess that's the question, right? So I think, if I need to say 3 reasons. Reason number 1, he looks good visually. He's handsome. He's tall.
What is that? That's just awful.
He is.
I know, but I'm saying it's awful that we're in a place where that's like number one reason.
It always matters. It always matters.
It's
People like to look at nice things. It's classic. I mean, look at Obama, super fit, tall.
Yep.
JFK. Like, people like people like people.
There was also William Taft.
Easy on the eyes.
Was like 400 pounds.
Thank God we weren't around back then.
Bathtub.
So he looks good if you compare him to Bougie, to Herzog last time.
Right.
It's So this is reason number 1. Reason number 2, he was the chief of staff.
Yeah.
Here it's a deal breaker. Herzog wasn't chief of staff before him. Who ran against him? I don't know. I don't remember. But it's the first time since '99, essentially, that a chief of staff.
That's what you think is. I'd say reason 2 is to topple Bibi. I would say that might even be reason 1. I feel like that's every argument I hear is yalla dai tzarich lachlief.
No, but that was the same. But it was the same argument in 2015
with Herzog.
And he couldn't pull the same numbers that Gantz is getting now. So why is that? Why is he more than anyone before him since Barack?
He can't help it that he's good looking.
Nope.
First of all, we got to wait till Tuesday to see what the numbers actually are, because in the end, the polls said that Bibi would get a lot less that last election.
So those are the 2 main reasons.
What's 3?
I think this is more like strategic campaigning virtue. Mm-hmm. Since he went with Lapid, what he got from Lapid is infrastructure that no one else has. Like, he has I'll give you guys an example. I
Like
went to
campaigning
see
infrastructure?
Yeah, I went to see Gantz in an event 2 weeks ago. I wanted to see and to experience. He did an event for young people here in Tel Aviv. I went to look to see and experience him face to face. I was in awe from what I saw.
Really?
It was America. I've never seen such an event.
What do you mean?
First of all, it was packed. Like, it had 300 young people. Now, in Israel, to bring 300 young people to hear a politician in the evening, it's extremely hard. Extremely hard. People, let's say, aged 20 to 30 in average.
You would think you would think he was promising to legalize pot.
Yeah, exactly. And then the whole production felt Hollywood. It was perfect. And everything, it was shining, and you felt
Did
in
he
a movie.
Did he have Rihanna sing or something like that?
No, but
that's big in the States.
It was perfectly organized. That he got from Lapid, and they're all around
How
the
did
country.
he get that from Lapid?
Because Lapid has built an infrastructure for winning for 8 years, like the whole system. So it's from being everywhere, have volunteers everywhere, but also production of events, organization of everything is perfect, and he got that, and now he's using it to his advantage. And when I saw him also in the event, it was extremely impressive under all those circumstances.
So let's talk about the murmurings from the beyond that as soon as presumably Trump's favorite Israeli prime minister gets reelected, there are whispers that there's going to be a peace plan unveiled.
Well, it's kind of like there's mixed messages. Because Trump's got one plan, and then Bibi just a few days ago, or yesterday, I think, said he's going to annex the West Bank.
Yeah, I know, I heard that. But he
like
said
they're
that
not on
before,
the same
but he
page.
said that before and then walked it back after the election. So I don't really trust much that comes out of his mouth. I don't trust, to be fair to Bibi, I don't trust much of what comes out of any politician's mouth before an election.
Fair enough.
They're one of the gifts of being a politician is that you're very good at telling people what they want to hear. Mm-hmm. So, but the long-awaited, masterminded by the political strategist extraordinaire Jared Kushner. So I read something today, and do you know the newsletter Jewish Insider? So it's amazing, and my friend Max Newberger created it and runs it, and he has like an incredible growing team of reporters that are like really killing it. He has a reporter. He's the only like Jewish journalism reporter on Capitol Hill, and so they reported there. So he puts all this stuff together in this newsletter, and I was reading it, and there was something about how Kushner is going to perhaps present his plan on like he's going to use film or video to the way he would show off like the penthouse apartments on a building that he needs to sell or whatever, and he's gonna make some like fancy video about this is what your life could look like with the $65 billion I have collected from a handful of Middle Eastern countries and the United States, and just imagine one day 5-star hotels, world-class restaurants.
It might work. Bibi likes presentation.
But for whom is it?
No, for the Palestinians. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
He's
That's
gonna
the
like try
carrot.
to like sell them on, glamour, glamify, glamify Gaza.
I mean,
That's
if
what we should
if
call
I
it.
were them, I'd take it with both hands.
Yeah, I know. We can only hope.
But I think
Take what though? The plan? There's no plan.
what they
Well, we don't know it yet.
Yeah, but they're gonna offer.
Maybe they'll just
Lots of
offer to
money.
like put up a few like free Trump towers and everyone can live in them for free, and they guarantee electricity actually all day long.
And casinos.
Here at Trump Tower Gaza, you can get electricity 24 hours a day.
I feel like Trump's style though kind of would fit in that culture in the Middle East.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
They respond to
Like
that
that
those
extravagance.
kinds of- well, also the way that he operates. It's a kind of it's the strongman, negotiation, and I feel like I think that was one of the biggest complaints that a lot of so in the LA Jewish community, we have Jews from all over the world, and one of the big populations within the LA Jewish demographic are Iranian-born Jews, Iranian-born American Jews, and they lived in an Islamic country, and they feel that they have experience with a certain mindset and a certain way of doing things, culturally speaking. And so they always faulted Obama during the Iran deal because they felt that the Obama administration was so desperate to get a deal, they were just giving away the store. And they were saying, like, you don't understand how it works in our part of the world. Like, you don't understand how these people think. And they have the long game in mind. And so I think Trump, quite to the contrary of Obama, he understands that mentality, and he's like the person who's like willing to walk away from the table. Well, you don't like it? Okay, never mind. Deal's off, you know?
Yeah.
And
You have this one chance.
exactly. He'll
Take it or
present,
leave it.
right, and he'll present a really pretty picture. So like today I saw a number the number that they're sort of banding about is $65 billion.
I
For
mean,
the
for what?
Palestinians. For giving up their dream for the entire land.
So there will be it will be annexation?
No.
No, we
Or
will annex the Gush Etzion,
there will
parts
be,
of the
there will be the
territories.
land
So, like,
swaps
the
and all the
big
things that everyone's always
settlement
talking
blocks.
about. But yeah.
They probably won't get a state right off the bat.
That's
probably.
a horrible plan.
Listen,
That's such a bad plan. That's such a child's plan.
We'll see. Well,
It's like,
You
let me
said
pay
it.
him a lot of money.
yeah,
But the thing is, Bibi and Trump are so close together, right?
yeah.
Which is,
They're like two
Amazing.
peas in a pod.
how do you explain that?
First of all, I think that they are very similar operators. Bibi is obviously more polished. He's more intellectual, definitely more educated. Trump is more kind of like off the cuff. He's more sort of an improviser. He's spontaneous. He says the first thing that comes into his mouth. But I think that they fundamentally have, the self-interest, not just it's like self-interest, but it's also self-preservation. Like they have these very primal core instincts that are very similar, in my opinion. They think of themselves with grandeur. They aspire to greatness. They want to live well. They want power. They want luxury. I mean, look at all the things that, like, so many of the things Netanyahu's gotten in trouble for over the years, all the corruption charges, like, it's always about, like, luxury items, like money or champagne or whatever it was. Like, it's like his cigars. I mean, and like, here's Trump with his, private jet that has golden seatbelts, and
toilets.
I'm like, yeah, this is the great aspiration. Like I'm the king of the world, I'm powerful. People listen to me. They do my bidding. I mean, it's grandiosity, it's narcissism. They have a lot in common, and they really work the same way. They understand each other.
But Israel is the great beneficiary of that relationship, I would say.
Absolutely, but here's the big question mark: is like, Trump is not an idiot. He's given Israel a lot. That has been helped by the fact, and there's no question in my mind that the reason Trump cathected to Israel the way that he did is because so many of the people around him are Orthodox American Jews, and he has been influenced greatly. He respects these people that he's worked with, some of them many years. Obviously, his son-in-law, his daughter converted to Judaism. So
his lawyer,
Cohen. many lawyers,
maybe
and
not.
many.
Yeah, but a large part of the Republican constituency has always been, recently,
But not really, because the Jews are so
pro-Israel.
small. Yes, they have been. Of course, they've been pro-Israel, but Jews are such a small. But in Trump's world, Orthodox Jews are dominant. There are a lot of really talented, intelligent Orthodox Jews around him that he respects. So the connection was there. The Kushner thing is huge. His family. So it was an easy. And he is that. That's also it. It's like the nepotism thing, right? Like it's his family, and it's his family's interest. And so just after Donald Trump comes Donald Trump's family. So so I think that the little bit of the special connection there is attributable to that. But anyway,
Do you
Do
get
you-
Israelis? Sorry.
I have a
but
question.
so where I was going with all of that was that, so my big question is, okay, so he's given. You got the embassy, you got the Golan, you got the thing that with the United Nations, I mean, pulling out of the Security Council, Nikki Haley,
Iran.
the Iran deal. So he's been very strategically giving, and then he's gonna. I mean, Trump always said this is the hardest deal in the world, and he is gonna make it. So he has ambition to solve this problem. And my
Yeah,
question
it's
is,
gonna
when
be
is he
his-
gonna come to Bibi and say, "Look, I've given you this, and in return, I need you to do this for me." So it will be very interesting to see what happens.
Fascinating.
And this is also why it's so crucial for Trump for Netanyahu to get reelected.
Yeah.
Because then all bets are off. If it's not Netanyahu, who knows if he's going to be able to. Oh, and by the way, I mean, I don't know this, but my guess is that on some level, by the way, there's a lot of money that's going to be involved in this. If this happens and there's a lot of development, I mean, there's like party favors to go around. So.
But the thing is, I mean, first of all, he's been giving Israel, right? He hasn't just been giving Netanyahu. So I feel like it's going to carry over somewhat.
Yes, agreed.
But I doubt that anybody would be able to.
But he has something he wants to accomplish while Netanyahu is prime minister. Trump has
But
something
what
he
I'm
wants to
saying is
accomplish
that
while he's in
invested.
office.
What I'm
He's
saying,
invested in
wait,
Bibi.
no, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that Bibi is the only one that has proven, sort of, has a proven track record of standing up to a U.S. president who
Also
basically
true.
put a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So, obviously Obama wasn't as friendly and didn't use that strategy of give.
That's
and
another
then
thing I was
come-
going to say. Like, part of the friendship, I think, also is that they're very polarizing figures, and Trump doesn't have a lot of friends around the world. Like, people don't like him. Like, he has alienated like many of America's most important allies, and Bibi likes him, and they get along, and they're on the same page. So it's like they can be chummy in that way. They're not going to tell each other what to do. It's like, you run your country and I'll run my country. But it's like Trump needed a friend. Like, he needed a friend on the world stage. And I think he frankly admires. Dramatically like that. I mean, I don't see how that is a morally superior behavior to anything that Trump does. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, like when you become sort of unthinking automaton when it comes to politics, like that's a dereliction of your civic duty. I mean, you have a responsibility to like deeply examine and interrogate, and it's like there's none
of that going on in that group.
of that. But it's symptomatic of the left in general. I mean, just so yes, I do think there is an outsized hysteria and antipathy towards Donald Trump. There's no question about that.
But
much of it is deserved, but it's still there.
Do you get the Israelis who just love him and don't care about his bad?
I completely understand. You mean Israelis who love Trump?
Yeah.
I mean, this trip in particular, I've realized, like, oh, I get it. He's like, live your lives, dude. It's like, I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna give you what you want, and you should be free to prosper and do. And I think for Israelis, it's great. You know, if we're talking about like naked self-interest for the average Israeli citizen, the things that Trump has done for the country are great. They're great for Israel. They're great for the Jewish state. They're great for Jewish aspirations, Jewish sense of self, etc., security, blah, 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 blah.
Because if an Israeli were to debate with a Jewish American, like, I guess...
it depends on which Jewish American.
Yeah, but,
because we have to be very careful, and I would encourage, like, both of you, obviously, as you talk about this, is like, first of all, the American Jewish community is not at all monolithic. And I think one of the interesting phenomenons up until recently, when the left won seats back, when the Democrats won seats back in the House, is that there has been this rightward lurch in not just in the halls of power, but it has trickled down to the Jewish community, because the power, the powers that be are, there's a, you know, like Trump and like Orthodox, the vast majority of American Orthodox Jews, not all, but and particularly like some modern Orthodox tend to be a little more kind of socially liberal or whatever, but there is a very strong, loud, powerful, wealthy community of American Orthodox Jews on the far right, and they love Trump. And
aren't they a minority though?
They are a minority, but right now they have power. They have the ear of the government of the United States. They have shared interests. So there's a simpatico thing going on there right now, and it's very interesting because the left has been it's interesting that all of this there's anti-Semitism on both sides, but it's interesting that this kind of uptick and the fact that Israel is becoming a wedge issue in American politics, when to AIPAC's credit, for so long it was a bipartisan issue. AIPAC did a brilliant job of really educating people, bringing Congress people to Israel, and I mean they were magnificent at doing that, and then it all fell apart, and that's a subject for an entire podcast. But you know, it's interesting to me that at the moment that the right and the sort of like Orthodox Jewish alignment is happening in Israel, it's like Orthodox American Jews, the Trump administration, Israel, all good. And then on the left, you have like all of this sort of like creeping. On the right, you also have, you know, white nationalism in America, and there's, you know, anti-Semitism is the beating heart of white nationalism, and Trump is perfectly happy to dog whistle to his white nationalist base whenever it serves him. He'll do that, and then he'll turn around and give Israel, you know, the Golan Heights, which is funny. But I remember hearing a podcast on the New York Times a long time ago, and I thought this was and someone said, like, wait, I don't understand it. How could white nationalists support a president who's so pro-Israel if they hate Jews? And we're like, because Israel's like a model of like an ethnic state, and they want all the Jews to go there. They don't mind if you're in Israel. They just don't want they want to have like a white America again. Anyway, I'm segueing into the anti-Semitism thing, which I have a lot to say about, but I'll wait.
She's
for
also
you
fascinating.
I'll wait for you to ask me a question.
But you were beginning to say something about anti-Semitism creeping into the left.
It's on both sides,
okay.
But it's different.
How is it different?
So the left is, so what's happening on the left is happening, the anti-Semitism of the left is related to anti-Zionism. And I think you see those two as a pair more on the left. It comes in terms of, ascribing, like evil powers to Israel. It's not, I mean, no problem to criticize Israeli policy, but that's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing criticism of leaders. It was very wrong for so-and-so to say this, or this policy, it does a disservice to the Palestinians, because you're not seeing that. You're seeing, Ilhan Omar's tweets about hypnotism and money buying, anyone who supports the Jewish state, well, their loyalty must have been bought and paid for. I mean, which is an insult to me, by the way. So, anyway, so I think but I think I listen to this really, and listen, there's a rabbi in my community, and, she claims that the anti-Semitism of the right is the more violent, dangerous one, because these are the well-armed white nationalists of America who are, gun-toting. They have like a lot of guns, and they advocate violence. And of course, when they had their rally in Charlottesville, someone was killed, and skirmishes break out, and you don't see so much that kind of stuff on the left, but you see a lot of talk, you see a lot of articulation of anti-Semitism on the left, and extreme. It's not criticism of Israeli policy; it's criticism of Israel's being. It's criticism of Israel's existence. So it's really troubling. And anyway, I was listening to this podcast not so long ago, and there's this guy, Eric Ward, who's the executive director of something called the Western States Center. And he's African American, and he embedded himself with white nationalists for a number of long time ago, and really studied, and he said, anti-Semitism is essentially the beating heart of white nationalism. And he said, but what's so fascinating about what's happening right now in America is that, first of all, one of the problems is that people don't take anti-Semitism seriously. They don't see it as a systemic or structural problem, and they don't think it really poses any real threat. And he said the greatest danger of this and this moment of rising anti-Semitism is, he said, ultimately anti-Semitism undermines democracy, because the idea that there is this hidden, secret Jewish cabal, puppeteers that are pulling strings behind the scenes and controlling the levers of power, or manipulating those in power to doing their bidding. The minute there's a puppeteer, a puppet master, the minute there's a puppet master, it does not matter what you do in a democracy, because there's a puppet master, okay? There's somebody pulling the strings behind the scenes. So all of a sudden, the things that democratic citizens are called upon to do, right? It's a joke, and it's completely useless. Everything you do is futile because someone's pulling the strings behind the scenes. And so he has this amazing, I actually wrote it down because I thought it was so incredible.
Danielle is the first guest to have.
I have notes.
She's very serious.
So this is a slightly controversial statement when read literally, but I think if you think about it, you understand what he's getting at. And he basically said, what frightens me is that non-Jews do not understand that we may be at more threat of anti-Semitism than even perhaps the Jewish community itself. Because he also talks about how, there's they're using anti-Semitism and the Jewish cabal to suggest that these are the levers of power that are promoting people of color, equality, immigrant rights, all these policies that are loathsome to white nationalists, the idea that people of color live in America. All these loathsome policies are being orchestrated behind the scenes by it's the Jews that are doing this. It's the Jews that are doing this, and it completely takes the wind out of the sails of people who are protesting, who are activists, who rely on our system of law and checks and balances and all of those things. It's basically none of that matters because there's some fish some terrible Jew doing this in the sky.
It almost seems like it's not secret, though. I mean, we are all over the place, and we're not hiding. I mean, maybe I don't know. Jared Kushner.
Right.
I sound like a wacko now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that,
But
like,
you could see,
Jews,
like,
they're not secret about it. Like, we do control a lot of stuff, but it's just because, like, we're
Smart and
successful rich. Like, I mean, but it's not like we're hiding it.
But
And
for
we
every,
do it through
the point is for every
system
Jew,
of freedom.
thing is for every Jew who has power, you can find a Christian and Muslim less power. Thing
Yeah, but
is,
we're disproportionately represented.
yeah, that's
in
the
most
thing. The
hierarchies
disproportion,
of power or success, or we're
Yeah.
moral
disproportionately
of the
represented.
story: Jews rock.
Jews rock, but
Yeah.
that's the
I mean,
thing.
I believe that.
No, but
so
that's
I don't know what
but
to
that's
tell
the
you.
thing is that
I think-
anti-Semitism almost seems that's the reason I feel anti-Semitism is natural. It's because when you climb to the top, you're gonna have people who are
But
trying to
I
take you
think
down.
we have to be very careful about resorting to some of these stereotypes as much as we want to pat ourselves on the back and say, well, it's so wonderful that such a small percentage of the world population has accomplished such a great deal, and it is true, and by many measures, I mean, number of Nobel Prize winners, number of Israeli companies on the NASDAQ, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there are a lot of ways that we can. I mean, Hollywood, the creation of Hollywood, there are a lot of things that the things on Wall Street, you know, like
Yeah.
So there's no question that there are Jewish people, talented and intelligent Jewish people who possess power in this world as anyone else might in another place. But I think we have to be careful about that because there have been many, many times in Jewish history when Jews have had no power, and it doesn't. And I think one of the interesting things about anti-Semitism is like it's either the anti-Semitism of the all-powerful guy at the top, or the Jew is what the rodent, the cockroach, it doesn't matter. You can be high or you can be low as a Jew, but we'll find a way to hate you no matter what. So it's either for Hitler it was vermin. It wasn't, it was like they're disgusting, they're dirty,
there was a way for him to stereotype us into that category. But I mean, Jews were very successful in Germany.
But the point is, it's ascribing these kind of secretive power because the fact is, it's not the same thing to say there are powerful Jewish people working in the American government. It's not the same thing to say that and also say the Jews control the U.S. government, or the famous one, Jews control Hollywood. No, Jews don't control Hollywood, right? Box office controls Hollywood. It's the ability for a film to make money that controls the way the industry operates. Are there not powerful Jews in Hollywood that helped build the industry, that have helped run the industry, that have presided over the studios, that at the Steven Spielbergs who have made unbelievable films? Absolutely, yes, that's true. But it's not the same as saying Jews run Hollywood.
Yeah,
we gotta wrap things up.
Okay.
Wow,
Are we done already?
Just zip it.
That was so fast.
I mean, yeah. We can just mention.
I
what
guess
you're
it was
doing
such a
nowadays.
relief to speak in English after all the Hebrew that I've been learning the past 2 weeks.
What are you up to nowadays, real quick?
I am writing a television pilot about the Jews.
Does it have a name?
I have a quick funny story about the name. Before Michelle Obama's book came out, the title of my series was Becoming. And I was like, this is perfect, because it was all about the verse in the Bible where Moses says to God, who shall I say send me? And he says the famous line about I will be that which I will be. And I thought, oh my God, Becoming, this is exactly it. Thank you. And I was on a silent meditation retreat with Sarah Hurwitz, who, of course, was Michelle Obama's speechwriter, one of them, but one of the senior ones. And I hadn't seen her since an Israel trip that we had taken together a couple years ago with the Schusterman Foundation. And so we were at this Jewish silent meditation retreat in the desert in California. And she said, what are you up to? And I said, oh, I'm doing this thing, and it's called Becoming.
Are you supposed to be silent?
And yeah, well, it was like right at the end when we could talk on it. And there was a sermon given that was kind of about the idea of becoming. And I said, oh my God, I love it, and that's the name of my show. And she goes, you're kidding, right? And I'm like, no. And she goes, that's the title of Michelle Obama's book. And so she told me that, like, I think in June or July. And of course the book came out in the fall. So now I'm having to rethink my.
Still have it.
We'll see.
name
We'll
Becoming.
see. Listen, if it happens 2 years from now, it's big from my lips to God's ears. Anyway, so yeah.
So do you need like someone to buy the script?
Yes.
Okay.
Any takers? There's a rabbi,
How much do you want?
two rabbi protagonists actually.
Okay.
And it's firmly couched in the Jewish world, and my pilot is called The Divided Self, and it's essentially, the journey of a character who's torn between the life, their fidelity to the life that they've chosen and the commitments that they've made, and what I call the human longing for more.
We have some
Wow.
interesting people listening to this show. So, guys, if you want to invest in the next Netflix hit,
The next big thing.
your chance.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go, we are collaborating, thanks to you,
You're welcome.
with the Jewish Journal. JewishJournal.com.
My alma mater, I'll call it.
They have podcasts. They have columns. They have Dave Shapiro. They have
a website.
They have a website, JewishJournal.com, and for example, the podcast, the David Suissa podcast, he had Jay Leno not so long ago, which is pretty awesome.
Jay Leno really likes the Jews. He just hosted, I think that was because he hosted some events in LA, and he was like super generous, and he said all these nice things about Jews and about Israel, and everyone was like, wow, what?
Well, I guess we gotta have him too.
Yeah.
And also,
we do this on our free times, guys. So if you want to donate some schmeckles, then no schmeckles, shekels. That's a funny story too, but for after
Shekel.
shekels, then go to 2njb.com/donate.
thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you for having
Enjoy your
me.
time
So
here.
fun.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, guys, for listening.
Next year in Jerusalem.
Oh man, woo! We're still live. Wait for it. Okay, now I can't hear us anymore.
My ears are always sweating after I wear these ones.